Welcome to the special episode of Media Intelligence Explained podcast that we will make especially before the World Media Intelligence Congress in Dublin. That's a congress that is organized by FIBE. And we would like to make you excited before the congress. So we have a special guest with us. But first, let me introduce myself. I'm Alicia Borst from Softlitics. And with me is Vladimir Petkov from Identrix, your usual hosts. You probably are used to us right now. Yeah. But today we have a very special guest with us, Todd Murphy from Universal. Hello, Todd.
Hi, Todd. Thanks for having me.
Could you please introduce yourself for our listeners?
Certainly. Again, my name's Todd Murphy. I'm CEO of Universal Information Services. We're located in the United States, primarily monitoring, measuring news in the United States, but we have some global clients. I also serve as a vice president of the FIBEP board, and my portfolio, as they call that on the FIBEP board, is focused on events. So I assume it might not be for my great looks that I'm doing this podcast. Otherwise, it would be a video. So they're having me do an audio kind of primer for the Congress next week. So I'm real excited to talk with you guys. I'm a big fan of the podcast. I've bought T-shirts. I've been online getting merchandise of Media Intelligence Explained. My wife is expecting, and if it's a daughter, we're going to name her Alicia. And if it's a boy, we're going to name it Vlado. So real excited, big fan, looking forward to talking with you today.
So the whole point of today's podcast is to get all of our listeners excited about our Congress that is coming up. So this year we are meeting in Dublin, and the common questions for all people in the industry is why should we exactly attend the industry conferences? Why to even bother get the plane and go there?
Why is always the best question to start with, and I'm glad you did. It's an interesting question, and it's so open-ended we could almost go any direction. But I decided on broad questions, I often find the simplest answers are the best. And I would say the why of the Congress that I've learned over the 7 or 8 years I've been a member is every time I go to the World Media Intelligence Congress from FIBEP, I get strategic ideas and new tactics. I get ideas that help me both at the top end of my business and the bottom end of my business. And that's why I think the real appeal of this Congress is whether you're a CEO or an owner of a company. We have a lot of legacy companies that have been in business for over 100 years. But we also have upper-level management executives that attend this Congress who can get tactical ideas on how they can motivate their team, improve sales. So the why to attend, I see as a top and bottom end or appealing to both types of attendees at a Congress, which most Congresses can't successfully pull off, but FIBEP every year seems to do that.
Todd, can you share with us how many people will attend the event?
We're approaching 200, so it's been a great turnout. We had a big spike last week. When you factor in the administrative help and everyone who will be on site and helping, we should be right at around 200. The gala event will include spouses and potentially other office members who might be nearby. So the gala event will probably be larger, but I would say we're very pleased, very excited with the number of people. And I think part of that's attributed to the fact that everyone is very eager to get back to seeing people in person. We've done the virtual attendance for over 2 years, and there's no replacement for shaking your hand, looking you in the eyes, and talking about how we might be able to work together in some manner or fashion.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that there will be companies exhibiting. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but yeah, companies will have booths. How many companies and how many booths will be there?
Oh, and that's a great question because often our great sponsors don't get enough attention. And let me just pause at this moment. I'd like to thank MediaTrack for sponsoring the cocktail hour. And so I thought I would have a Guinness prepared for myself this morning at 9:15.
It's 9 a.m., right?
Yeah, it's 9 a.m. But is it ever too early to have a Guinness?
Yeah, but it's the end of the day in Poland, so you're actually welcome to.
It's completely
Yes, it's so smooth. So, yeah, thanks MediaTrack for the cocktail hour. But another great sponsor is our headline sponsor, 9 Stars. So I'm going to drop other sponsors throughout this podcast just to give them a little extra juice for their sponsorship and support of our organization.
Don't forget about sponsors.
But to answer the question, which I avoided from Vlado, there should be approximately 10 booths, all of which are interesting vendors. There'll be, from 9 Stars to
Identrix,
Identrix,
Identix will be there. This is a shameless plug from me. Today, we met with the designers of our booth, and we, in a way, practice how to assemble the booth. Funny thing is that we will ship the booth, and me, the CEO, the chief commercial officer, and the service delivery manager will discover how to assemble this there. So there is some risk.
That's always the first time for everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and let me just offer the help. I'd like to give you some help, and I'll offer the help of Florian Laszlo. He's another CEO who'd be happy to help you put your booth together.
Thank you, Florian.
He'll have to listen to this to know that he's been recruited.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, Alicia, we can keep
No problem.
We can keep
Let's
moving.
jump to another question. So, as you mentioned, one of the beauty of FIBEP World Media Intelligence Congress is that it offers so many interesting topics, and there will be a variety of individuals that will be presenting. But what might the media monitoring company owner take away from this meeting? And to invite our question, what might the media monitoring manager get out of this meeting? Because that's completely different roles. And we would like to make sure that everyone is satisfied. It's not only the meeting for the owners of the company, it's also the meeting for the professionals who are working there.
You're so right, Alicia. It's an all-inclusive meeting. And I'll speak from my perspective as an owner. Every time I attend a FIBEP Congress, I take away what I call directional insight. It gives me a view of what next. And it might come from a hallway conversation, or it might come from a keynote speaker, or it might come from Christoph on the topic of copyright, but it gives me directional insight, and I start taking notes, and I make notes on the flight home that things we're going to implement when I return to my office in my country that really maps out the direction and vision for the coming year. Now, my entire strategy obviously won't be made up from what I hear in the hallways at FIBEP, but I get such good ideas at the meeting that it's a substantial part of my strategic direction. And I think that's very important to realize that no matter how large your organization is, for example, my company's probably 1/10 the size of some of the organizations that have been in FIBEP, and some of the organizations are acquiring others and getting even larger. But whether you're gigantic or even a smaller organization, directional insight for an owner, I find it's incredible. For a manager, I think, again, I'll go back to our first question, tactical insights. If I'm getting strategic insights as an owner, tactics, things that I can do that are specific at a managerial level, whether it's motivating a sales team or taking the development team in a different or unique direction, speaking with either of you about how you're managing your development. Obviously, you're not going to give away any of your trade secrets, but you might spark an idea that my IT development team hadn't thought of. And it's that little kernel of information that can spark a new idea for a manager and lead to great development or even great value in terms of new clients.
So over the past decade, we've seen new branches develop around FIBEP. So there's not only traditional media monitoring companies, but also there are tech companies who are joining the media intelligence market. So how does these two sides differ? And what they might learn in Dublin. So from the perspective of the media monitoring organization and from this perspective of this tech-forward provider.
Yeah, the classical clash.
Yeah, and Vlado, I wouldn't even call it a clash. I'd say it's complementary. And I really benefited from last year's virtual meeting. I met a new person through the FIBEP Congress last year, who's actually speaking at this year's Congress, Viet from Hype Factors. Yeah. And he had some ideas, and we just had a conversation, and I found him fascinating. And so he represents what I would consider the newer facet, and Identrix, and even Softlytic. You guys fall into a category that I call tech-forward organizations, where you're technology first with the idea of media monitoring and intelligence and measurement as your objective. If you complement that with the media monitoring organizations that have traditionally represented FIBEP, they represent expertise, but they also have something that's very different, at least at the early stage of the tech-forward companies. The media monitoring organizations have clients and content, and that's not always something that the tech-forward companies have at the beginning of their race. So I find the two can work very complementary. The MMOs that have clients, the tech-forward companies have tools and products to implement into our industry, and whether it's through strategic partnerships or acquisitions or just conversations, the two are very complementary, and having those two facets, I think, increases the value of the FEBEP membership to our members, because we're now exposed to these great ideas that you guys are creating at your company, specifically Softlytic and Identrix and the other tech forward companies. So I want to thank you guys for joining FEBEP because it's expanding our ideas and what we can do.
Thank you for saying this. FEBEP is really great community, like almost like a family. And tech companies like ours, we have so much to learn, right, Alicia? So it's really a huge pleasure for us to go to events like the main topic of us today. And because we learn about real problems, like real use cases, and how we can use the technologies which sometimes we develop as a research, and we find really like practical applications of this research. So it's really great for tech companies to go to this type of events, meet people and specialists from organizations which are already like 100 years old and they work in this field. So it's really extremely beneficial to organizations like us. And really thank you for saying all of this.
Well, I'm glad you guys feel the same way, because the reality is we both have something to offer each other that's invaluable.
Thank you.
So on one of our last episodes, we introduced MIBE, and that episode has been very well received. So one of the areas that will be more deeply explored during the Congress will be media intelligence business ecosystem. So how does a face-to-face event like the World Media Intelligence Congress enhance the value of MIBE?
The MIBE is one of the greatest new tools to come out of FEBEP, in my opinion. And Romina Hersuni, who was
Absolutely.
2 podcasts ago, did an excellent job outlining it. And she's a person in FEBEP that I categorize as one of the hardest working people in FEBEP. She does so much for our organization around the MIBE, organizing it into geographic areas. And I won't go into it because you can listen to that podcast, which was outstanding. But what the MIBE does, the ecosystem that we are a part of, we are not the ecosystem. We are part of an ecosystem, but it exposes our members and those who attend the Congress to that bigger world than they may be aware of. Even if you've been a FEBEP member for 50 years, and we have people that are that old, believe it or not. I'm not one of them, but we have people that old. But it exposes them to what vendors and partners have the ability to drive their business forward that they may not have thought of. Maybe they aren't aware that Google has tools that you can literally bounce your data off of and pick up voice to text and different metrics and measures. And when you look at the low cost of that incremental data that you pull from Google, that's a new idea for some of our members. So knowing who those players are, but also, and I'm going to pull in the last question a little bit, pulling in our Tech Forward members who are also part of the ecosystem. They're FEBEP members, but they serve a slightly different role. And it's exposing everybody to that greater ecosystem, that greater sphere of knowledge. Who has solved a problem that they might be wrestling with? How can I look at something differently than I've been looking at it for a year? And one thing I've learned, probably the first lesson I ever learned 30 years ago in this industry, is no matter what part of the world you're in, no matter how big or small your company is, when you talk to another owner or executive in the hallway, the problems are all pretty much the same. No one has solved the riddle completely. Nobody has racked up all of the clients. The pie is so big that understanding the ecosystem is important. And the value of doing it in Dublin and getting exposed to it in person is that it will take a concept, kind of a higher concept, and make it more easily digested in person. And then you can gather in the hallway and you can ask Romina or any of her regional assistants in the group, how can they get involved or how can they learn more? So sorry to give such a long answer to a short question, but I really like the MIBE being at the Congress because it lets a high concept be broken down into smaller bites for those who want it.
I have another question, which is again influenced by our previous episode with Mazen Nahawi from Karma. And with him, we talked about media monitoring and measurement and media analysis. And this episode was a huge hit. Like, we received so many positive emails regarding that episode. And I believe that the success was, of course, because Mazen was a great guest and he shared so much knowledge with us. But at the same time, the topic was really important. And a lot of like business owners and media analysts, in a way, they related with that topic. From, let's say that can we link this episode with the event? From your perspective, do you think that a lot of people who are interested in the measurement perspective will find anything interesting in the FIBEP Media Intelligence Congress in Dublin?
Absolutely. I would go so far as to say that the FIBEP Congress is as much for those members that are interested in media measurement and analysis as it is for those interested in media monitoring and intelligence. The lines have truly blurred, and that's happened over the last decade or longer. They are intertwined to the point where your clients will be demanding you deliver both. And the agenda we've mapped out, which is a very ambitious agenda at this year's Congress, will have best practices around media measurement. We'll have discussions, masterclass discussions from those who are more deeply involved with measurement that will help those who want to expand their measurement proficiency. So in short, I'd say it's equally as important for those organizations that are more in the measurement world as it is for monitoring. And if you enjoyed the last episode of your podcast with Mazen, as impressive as he is in audio, he's even more impressive in person. And so he will be part of the agenda. Absolutely. He will be standing in the hallways. He's one of the nicest people I've met through FIBEP. And if anyone wants to talk to him, he's always very approachable. And any FIBEP member would be happy to introduce you if you want an introduction to anybody else. And you mentioned it's like a family. It really is. No one should ever be concerned about approaching another FIBEP member because everyone is so approachable.
This is really unique. If you're in this industry and if you are in a way monitoring what's going on and who are the main players and the main drivers behind this industry, all of them will be on that event. So this is a great way to do networking with them, or to learn from them. So yeah, again, great place to be, Dublin, just in a week. I'm really looking forward to go there and to talk again to Mazen, not only in an interview form. Yeah, so really great chance.
Well, and that's important, talking to others. And this is a great time for me to mention another sponsor, RuPoint, our host sponsor in Dublin. Thank you, RuPoint. Next question,
Thank
please.
You.
So going back to the Congress, I'm actually browsing through our Congress app, which was provided by Argus Data Insight.
Another sponsor.
Thank you. Sponsor, yeah. Thank you for the
app.
So
many sponsors.
Did you know, Vlado, that our podcast is in the app?
Really?
Yeah, it is. You can listen
your
to
podcast
it.
is a big deal, guys. I'm telling you. You need a merchandise website.
Okay. So I'm browsing through the program, and there's like so many interesting things on the agenda. We'll have to just mark that I'm attending everything, basically. So can you tell us about some of the keynote speakers that will be featured in Dublin? What excites you about their topics? What should we be looking out for?
You know, I'm going to answer that question. I'm going to tell you no, Alicia. I can't do that because all of it is so good. We would need another hour and a half for this podcast. And unfortunately, I understand that our time is quite short, but I will do my best to point out a couple. These are no way indications of the best because these are all going to be great sessions. But we're going to start Wednesday afternoon after the General Assembly in the morning, which is for FIBEP members. Effie Kanyua, I hope I pronounced her name correctly. She'll be talking about the evolution of communications and the changing focus of the media business. And the media business encapsulates everything from digital to traditional. So I'm really looking forward to her kicking off our Congress with her chat. We have discussions around how business models are changing, which is going to be, again, great for managers and owners alike. One fun thing that we're introducing, Fadi from Press Relations will be hosting a very democratic session at the end of the first day called a bar camp.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. What that is exactly? Yeah,
sounds chaotic.
It is chaotic.
Sounds like a bar fight. Like
bar fight. Yeah, I'm behind Vlado. My money's on him. But it's kind of a democratic process where you all gather in a room and people throw out ideas. And let's say the three of us were near each other, and Alicia threw out an idea that Vlado and I both liked. We would say, okay, let's discuss that. And maybe Vlado would say, okay, I'll moderate it because I have a good voice, and let's tear this idea apart and drill down on it. So it's out of chaos comes order, and that's the beauty of a bar camp when it works. And with the minds that we have attending this Congress, I'm really looking forward to the last event on Wednesday. Now, I'm afraid that I'm going to have to go upstairs and take a nap before the gala dinner because I could picture me, sweaty and out of breath by the time Fadi's session is over. But that's just the first day, and it goes on. Thursday's huge. We have Alice Ting from the New York Times talking about licensing and the value of media partnerships. I've been involved with copyright compliance and negotiating licensing concepts for 30 years. And the recognition that content owners need content distributors in an equal way is a huge hill to climb. But really, we're both on the same side of information and journalism. So I'm very excited to see what Alice has to share with us. That's followed by Maya Plentz, editor-in-chief at the UN Brief. She'll be talking about measuring the impact in a multilingual environment. We are playing on a global stage as much as some of us might think we're a nationalistic service. Maybe not nationalistic, a local service. You misused that word maybe a little bit. But we are a global industry and understanding multilingual differences and how we can work together, and in some cases how we may not be able to work together. But that'll be exciting. Christoph will be bringing us a great roundtable of speakers on the copyright issues. We have 12 best practices sessions. So if you don't have something in your organization that could be improved by one of these 12 sessions, then I'm sorry, we just can't help you. Just go on the Guinness factory tour and save the money.
Yeah, I'm always really excited about the best practices because that's the real use cases. Yeah, like how did you improve something in your organization? That's always happy to listen because you don't have to invade.
Let me flip the question on you guys. Let the interviewee interview the interviewers. What's something that you're interested in hearing or seeing or attending at the Congress? What would help you the most, or is exciting or fun, or just one thing? 5 words or less.
I'm actually really excited. I'm just checking the name so I won't butcher it. So it's Why Storytelling is the Only Business Model. And I believe it will be presented by Jack Murray, who wrote a book about storytelling, right? And I'm really excited about his presentation, so I don't have to read his book.
Media HQ is his company, also a sponsor.
Yeah, he's also a sponsor, right.
It's a great book, and everything's about storytelling with Jack. And if you haven't recognized that, you haven't stood next to Jack for more than 30 seconds. Jack's got a story for everything. So that's going to be a lot of fun hearing his comments, his keynote. What about you, Vlado? What's exciting for you?
I'm really looking forward for the tech panel, the tech discussion table. I'll be co-moderating that with Sofia Karakeva from Data Scouting. And part of that conversation will be about the future technologies. And I'm a chief executive officer right now, but I've spent the last 15 years as a chief technology officer and chief product officer. So I'm still the techie inside of me. It's really passionate about tech. So it's always great to listen to these great visionaries and great strategists about how the technology will look like. And I'm really curious what they're going to say. Plot twist, I know some of their points, but still, I'm really
you have the inside line on it.
Yeah,
but you're also cheating because you're paired up with Sophia, who's also in that category of one of the hardest working people in FEBEP.
Absolutely.
She really makes FEBEP tick. And she's with Data Scouting, who's also a sponsor. I'll mention them, but the power of Sophia can never be underestimated. She's such a good asset for our organization.
She's like a superpower, not only
Superwoman.
So one of the keynotes that's also really that we are also really excited about is super networking sessions. So
yes.
What can you tell us about this
crown jewel?
This amazing event.
It's, I don't even know where to start with the super networking session. The most impressive thing about the super networking session is the mustache of Carlos. It's
very respectful.
He has this fabulous mustache.
Yes.
And he harnesses the power. It's a nuclear-powered mustache. Rumors surround it. It's powered by a generator made in China, but we're not sure. He takes the power of the mustache and whips the room into a speed dating type of format where you're introduced and meet other members of the organization in a lightning round, and you quickly get to know so many people. So whether this is your first Congress you're attending or the 50th Congress you're attending, let the power of the mustache wash over you in the super networking session and attend it. You will not be disappointed. And Carlos is fine, but let's face it, the real energy of Carlos comes from his mustache.
We totally agree. One quick advice. I participated in this type of sessions 3 times, even if I know most of the people, but still I do it.
It will be a first time for me, so I will take any tips you can
for
get.
all the newcomers, bring business cards because you will need them. You will meet at least 50 people for 2 minutes. They're not going to remember that much for you, but this is the best way to give your business cards and in a way to utilize them and to collect cards and do follow-ups and additional research and at least meet people.
On top of that, Vlado, that's the best point. Bring a pen, and on the back of the business card, write 1 or 2 words So if I sat down next to Alicia, I'd say Softlytic portal, or I might just write the word portal, and that would remind me when I got home to contact you about the portal, a portal.
Yep.
So bring many business cards. You'll get business cards. Bring a pen. Write down a word or 2 so you know who you need to follow up with. And obviously, if you get my business card, you can discard it unless you want to just have a fun conversation. But there are other people who are very intelligent who will be there.
This will be a great way to introduce yourself to so many people. And then when you go to the gala or to other of the great networking opportunities which this event offers, you will have a lot of familiar faces. So yeah, for me, this is a mandatory point of the event. Even if I know like most of the people, I still go there. So yeah, it will be a way to meet with me, Alicia, and Todd. So yeah,
we will be there.
We'll be there.
There should be cocktails. I can't guarantee it. You might be able to bring your own. But if you can't make the super networking session, and even if you do, many of our sponsors will also have booths and tables available, as Vlado explained how he'll be setting up his own company's booth. But companies like OPoint, Newton Media, Zizzer, Clip News out of Greece, Observer, they're all going to be at booths. So if you don't have time to meet somebody there, you can get extended FaceTime and discussions with the sponsors and vendors that will be attending.
Great. I think that in just 30 minutes, we covered so many topics. And this was absolutely the funniest episode which we ever did for the Media Intelligence Explained podcast. Thank you, Todd, for
joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really looking forward to meet both of you guys just in a week in Dublin.
Oh, it's going to be great.
I just remember that we own all our guests' pint, right? So
yeah.
I get a pint. All right.
Yeah, you too.
Well, there's also a lot of Irish whiskey there too. So, and not that I advocate drinking, certainly if it's not good for you, but for me it is good, and so I will take you up on that pint. And you're really, Alicia, you're ending on the most important thing. It's the value of the friendships. It's the value of the meeting each other. We've talked about a lot of things. We didn't touch on half of what we could have gone into. I didn't even get to the rest of the sponsors like Onclusive, Outer Media, TrueHawk, Social Guest, Global News Group, Webs.io. Oh, I just got them all in. Perfect. But getting to see each other, that's the important thing. And I'm looking so forward to seeing you two and everyone else. Magdalena Horanska, Emily from FEBAP, they've done an outstanding job. When you see them, thank them profusely. It's going to be great. It's so exciting. I'm sorry. I know I need to stop talking, but thank you for having me on today. It was a lot of fun.
It was a pleasure. And this is not going to be the final episode with you. We are really looking forward to record again with you.
So good. We should do that. Why don't we just do one daily?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll just talk about stuff.
Waking up with FEBAP. Hey, good morning, everyone. It's 7 a.m. in Omaha. 5 p.m. in Bulgaria.
And same in Poland. Oh, no, we're not in the same.
No, we are not in the same time zone.
I know, you're closer to the center of Europe.
Come on, guys, get it together over there. Come on, get on the same
What
time
are you
zone.
talking about? You are in one country and you have how many time zones do you have in your country?
Yeah, but no one else matters but my time zone.
Okay.
We're all just isolationists, and it's just, it's a mess.
Let us end on this note. I hope we'll see each other at FEBAP Media Intelligence Congress in Dublin. And if you are there, come and say hi.
Yeah, say hi.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.